So you like Toyota Chasers? Well, guess what? Me too. I own a Toyota Chaser JZX100 Tourer V, and I would like to show you today how to install coilovers on your car. So join me and let's dive right into it. So now that you could feast your eyes on those wonderful coilovers, let's take a quick look in what is included. So as you can see, there is a key for adjusting the preload of the spring. As you can see, it also has a square hole in it so you can actually use extra leverage on it if needed. And to unblock that ring, basically you have an Allen key to adjust it like this. This is something that honestly I might be a little bit skeptical over time how that will hold with rust and everything, but in general, as you can see, the build quality of this coilover is amazing. What I also purchased was extenders, because on the Chaser, as you will see later, in the back when you install the coilovers, they are not easily accessible to adjust the stiffness. So that's why I use extenders. Anyhow, let's get into removing our previous coilovers. So this car is not stock, so it already has Apexi N1 Evolution coilovers, very high spec ones actually, and as you can see, they've seen a lot of driving and probably they are as old as the car. So as you can see, just like that, I removed the coilovers. This is what it looks like once everything is out. And probably you've seen I have adjustable arms on this car as well. I will have to remove that angle kit to be road legal in Switzerland, so that's what I'm going to do next. So let's do a quick comparison of both kits. So as you can see, the main difference, there's a difference in thickness, but there's also a difference in bushings that are used in, I must say the RSR ones look very beefy. You can see that the Apexi ones are totally used and worn out. I mean, fair enough, I've used them many years and they still were adjustable to this day. And as you can see, a major difference is actually the fact that they have two rings, like a conventional setup, whereas the RSR one has only one ring for the spring. Otherwise, they're pretty much the same, adjustable at the top. The clicks still work after almost 20 years of usage, which is remarkable, I must say. And anyway, it's time to refresh the whole thing and get something new inside the car. So let's start by installing the right-hand side first. Spiky, as usual, is coming to inspect that I'm doing my job correctly. And anyway, these kind of things usually you have to try out a little bit. The good thing with the RSR coilovers though is that you actually have a slightly shorter spring, which means that basically it's easier to install and you just have to lift up the lower hub once that's done. So it's actually pretty easy, can be done even by hand, as you can see like this, no big deal. And in a couple of seconds, as you can see, I could install it. So that's basically how easy it is to install coilovers on the front of a Toyota Chaser JZX100.
Oh, Spiky, what are you doing here?
A major plus point with RSR coilovers is they actually give you a good preset of the height and everything from the factory. which makes it much easier to install your coilovers, and you can actually already drop the car on the floor and you'll already have a good starting point. As you can see, the sway bar wasn't connected yet. That I'll be doing that really soon. And when you do corner balancing, by the way, it's really important to disconnect them. As you can see here, now I'm torquing everything to spec. That's also all written in the RSR user manual, which is really good. And I like to put a little trace of paint just to make sure everything was tight. And I can also see if something comes loose every once. So let's just skip to the other side. I've done it as well. Save you some time here. But it's the same principle, just on the other side of the car. Very easy. Now let's go over to the back. First thing you need to do is unhook your seats, basically. And as you can see here, I removed it. And we're going to have to do the same here. So there are 3 or 4 screws to remove to remove the back part of your seat. And no need to take all the seat belts out because it's going to take a lot of time. All you need is to free up some space so you can actually access the suspension, as you can see right here. So we'll have 3 screws to remove up here. And here probably you also understand why I need extenders to access the suspension, because honestly it's almost impossible to change the stiffness without removing the rear seat. In a typical Jesse Spec fashion, I got sidetracked and I decided to change my oil. What you do not know is 3 hours after this video, I have to leave and go to a race with this car. I actually registered for a little hill climb race. It's called Bas Monsieur in the Neuchâtel canton in Switzerland. So I wanted to quickly change my oil. So let me show you how to change your oil really quickly. So you just jack up the front, put some jack stands always for protection. Before removing the oil plug in your oil sump, make sure to remove the oil cap as I did previously, so you can actually let air come in and the oil can vent out quicker. On my car, it's a bit harder to change the oil filter. So when you change oil, I always recommend to change your oil filter as well, because lots of debris can actually get stuck in there, and it's good to remove it like that. It doesn't recirculate in your system. And as you can see here, I'm fighting it a little bit because I have this oil cooler kit that is actually severely reducing the space I have to actually remove my oil filter. And for some reason, it was really tight. So with this tool, you can basically remove it quickly. And as you can see, I'm not losing any time. I filled up the oil and now I'm putting my wheels back on so I can actually check the ride height of my car and see how well it sits without adjusting anything on the stock settings of the coilover. So let's let it sit a little bit and take a look. But as many famous tuners would say, the car needs more lows. Whatever that's supposed to mean. But yes, as you can see, there is definitely not enough drop in that setup. So let's go through the iterative process of actually adjusting ride height. So the principle is very easy. I took a measure of my current ride height between the center of the wheel and the fender, and I decided that I want to go down by, let's say, 2 centimeters. So a very easy way to do that is just reduce the shock length by 2 centimeters, as I'm doing here. So I'm screwing it into the lower bracket. And then in theory, the car should be lowered by 2 centimeters. This is iterative, so you have to try it multiple times, let everything sit, and you will see that usually it's not 1 millimeter reduction in suspension length that will result in 1 millimeter of lowering. So you gotta work through it and do it multiple times until you get what you want. So now, as you can see, I'm going back to the rear and I'm going to install the coilovers. By the way, also very important point, it was a rough setting of the front ride height because the car might actually sag a little bit in the back once I have the new suspension in. So that's why I did not get too fussy yet with the precise ride height that I'll be setting up. So here you can see there's only 1 screw to remove in the rear at the bottom, and once that is done, then all I need to do is remove the 3 upper screws that are holding the suspension at the top, as you can see here. Just move the rear seat out of the way. And as you can see here, there are 3 screws. All you need to do is unscrew them and the suspension will come straight out, as you will see in a couple of seconds. Here, let's take a look at the stock Apexi suspension. As you can see, the bushings are totally destroyed. And yeah, they really need replacing. So this suspension is sadly going to be thrown away. It's really old. It still works fine, but it does all kinds of weird noises. And it sort of jeopardized the ride quality that I want in that car. So as you can see, there's a quite significant difference between the old ones and the new ones, as I showed you previously. But yeah, I really like the bushings design they have on the RSR ones. They just look way beefier, and as you can see, they are really like almost look like solid mounts at the bottom, but they're actually with rubber. And the general build quality is really top notch, and I am really liking this suspension just from a aesthetical point as well. Now let's put the rear coilover in. I want to excuse myself for my horrible hairstyle. As you can see, I've been wearing a hat way too long and I have a weird hairstyle. But anyway, so now I'm also installing a Cusco rear strut bar. So I'm putting the upper bracket in there as well and putting the 3 screws in, just holding the suspension in place. And then from there, I'm going to be torquing up everything to spec. As you can see, I already made a hole in the rear garment, so the strut bar can be fitted without any problems. Anyhow, let me walk you through how to install extenders on the rear suspension so I can actually adjust everything without taking everything apart or moving the seats and everything around. So as you can see, you remove the old adjuster and you rescrew the extender onto that instead of the other one. And as you can see, this is what it's going to look like. It extends it by 20 centimeters. And then you basically put the adjuster knob at the top and you're good to go, ready for installation. Okay, let's put the car back to the floor, push on it a little bit. It already looks a little bit better than in front, actually, the stock setup. So let's do some adjusting. And let's see how the final result looks like once everything is set up correctly. And I skipped the rear adjustment just to make it a little bit quicker and easier to watch as a video. So this is what it looks like at the current ride height. So I need to say this is not a car that I want slammed to the floor. I need functionality. I know everybody likes these cars as drift cars and as all kinds of other usages, but this one is really going to be used in a race literally 24 hours after this video has been filmed. So I needed something functional, and by the way, you can look forward to that video because the car handled surprisingly well. We're back in the office and I want to close this video just with a small conclusion. So as you can see, in general, there hasn't been many problems for the installation. It was very straightforward. However, there are 2 things that I would like to tell you just as warnings when you install coilovers on this car. First of all, the ABS sensors and their cables are really old, from 1998, mine for example, and they easily break. That's like the only thing I broke actually when installing. And thanks to one of my friends, the sensor rarely breaks, but the cable inside breaks. So I actually ended up cutting the cable and fixing it and rewiring everything and could solve the problem like this. Just for a little disclaimer, the ABS system in the Chaser is fully automatic, so you cannot cancel or delete a fault When the light is on basically of the ABS, that means that there's a problem, and once it turns off, it means that you basically fixed the problem. So there's no way to turn it off with a computer or anything. You have to fix the problem. It's a bit annoying, but that's the only way you can do it. But on the other hand, you don't need a tester to fix it, which is good. And the other second problem I had is when I wanted to install the rear coilover into its bracket, the rear lower bush would not fit into its previous pocket basically. And I realized actually that the lower bracket on the car is actually slightly moving around, and the Apexis basically, when I put it in, actually squashed and moved the bracket a little bit around. So make sure to hammer it out back out so you can install it, and you will see once you put the lower screw in, it will adjust itself to the middle and then you'll be fine. But at first I was really not understanding how that was possible, and if suddenly I had ordered the wrong coilovers or something like that, that was not the case. So that is something that you might run into as a problem. So I hope this video was useful, and I enjoy making videos, and I hope they actually help you guys to install stuff on your cars. There's also a really annoying point of my dog walking around all the time making noise. No, what I wanted to say is it's all well and good to install the coilovers. You have to do an alignment after. That's also something I did. But I want to give you some feedback on how the suspension feels on the road and in a race situation, because as I've been saying in the video, literally when I clicked on stop recording, I was on my way off to a race, a small hill climb race that I participated with the car. As you know, I like drifting, but I also like grip driving very much. And this car is actually surprisingly fun and good to drive fast in as well. So the next video, I'll put a little sample here. I will be showing you and giving you some feedback on how the suspension feels and also on various adjustments. And the video after that will be the race footage that I actually did with the car. And you will see it was raining, it was wet, and I had no ABS working due to the fault that I had there. So you will see lots of action-packed stuff gonna come. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you do want to support in any way, make sure to just hit the like button and subscribe. And tell me if you like chaser footage, because I do want to make a lot of more videos with my car. So thanks a lot. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you really soon. Peace.